Hello, and thank you for joining us on When Neighbors Talk. I'm your host, Dana Tucker Davis, and here is where our community will come together to discuss events, the ways that they impact us all, and the solutions to the problem. Welcome to the neighborhood. Let's get into it. Today we will discuss the housing market, and here we're all neighbors. So our first neighbor is Kimberly Mays. Tell us about yourself.
Well, hi, Dana. Glad to be here. I am, as you said, Kimberly Mays. I am a real estate closing attorney with the law firm of Luter, Larkin, and Hunter. I have been doing real estate closings now over 20 years. Wow, I kind
Yay.
of hate to say that, but um, I am a graduate of the University of Georgia. Go Dogs! And my office is currently located at the Camp Creek location near the Camp Creek Market Center in South Fulton. South Fulton, stand up.
And our next neighbor today is Ebony C. Smith. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, Dana. Hi, Kim. I'm Ebony Smith with the Leo Realty Group, which is under Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties, the historic College Park Cascade office. I have over 20 years of experience as a licensed realtor. I'm also licensed in Georgia, South Carolina, and Alabama at the end of the month. Roll Tide. I'm sorry. Anywho, I can be found on socials. My tag is Ebony Home Hunter, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're going to talk about the housing market, and so your expertise is going to be very valuable for our viewers. And so the housing market is ever changing and ever moving and ever going up and down. We had a market crash around 2008, and the market climbed back up out of that deficit. And so now we have a lot of houses on the market. But there are so many factors that are preventing people from buying houses, from becoming first-time home buyers, or from continuing to own their homes.
Correct.
So we're going to delve into a little bit of that today because like they said, land, they aren't building it anymore. So we have what we have. And so we need to use it to the best that we can. I'm going to read some facts here. This came from Rocket Homes. It says in 2025, Georgia had 45,282 homes for sale, representing a 7.2% increase compared to last year. This suggests a larger inventory available for buyers. Specifically in Atlanta, there were 9,231 homes for sale in April of 2025, which is a 17.5% increase just from March of 2025. In Gwinnett County, they saw 4,807 homes for sale in April, which was a 16.8% increase month over month from March. So that means there is inventory, there are houses on the market, but let's talk about some of the factors. Now, I'm a real estate attorney, but I don't do closings, and I represent a lot of HOAs. So I know that interest rates, loan approvals, and fear of job loss, along with overpriced homes, are impacts. So let's kind of talk about that. So, Neighbor Mays, let's talk about interest rates and loan approvals.
Okay, great. So I do think that for people buying homes, if you are still comfortable with your 3.5 or your 4% interest rate, that 7 does not sound that appealing.
It does not.
And so I do try to explain it when I say now, if you're looking at a $400,000 house, depending on what the taxes are, depending on what your insurance is, you may very well be looking at like a $4,500 payment
Per month?
per month.
Per month.
So that's a little scary. That's intimidating, and a lot of people can't afford that. So people are, now having to get a little bit more creative, adjust their expectations in regards to the house that they buy. But even with that, real estate is always going to be the best investment that anyone can ever make.
So let's talk about interest rates. Okay, so in your example, you said $400,000 home could roughly end up being a $4,500 per month payment. And so of that, that is including the real estate and the homeowner's insurance, all of that?
Correct. Because right now, as you see across the country, there have been all kinds of natural disasters, things that have happened. So insurance rates have increased significantly. So that gets factored into your monthly payment. So typically they take whatever that insurance is, they divide it by 12, and you're going to pay 1/12 each month.
And let's not forget the PMI.
Yeah.
You have to add that PMI.
Right.
So for our neighborhood members who don't know what PMI is, you want to tell them?
Principal mortgage insurance. So if you're going to go FHA, it's required. If you go conventional, some conventional loan products will exclude it. So, I mean, you have to have a certain credit score in order to go conventional. And sometimes conventional, even though it may minus the PMI, you're going to have a 3.55 or even 10% down payment.
So what I hear you saying is that the housing inventory is the way it is because interest rates and insurance increase from disasters, and whether or not a potential buyer has the credit or the down payment monies to afford conventional versus non-conventional.
Correct.
I think all those things
These are factors,
factor into people making the decision. And there is kind of a little bit of a general fear of homeownership.
Especially with the economy and jobs.
Right, you know,
Employment.
because, you know, you want to make sure that once you're in the house that you don't lose the house. So
Correct.
you want to be able to make sure that you are able to afford that. But I've seen that people are doing some creative things in buying homes to still make it happen. I've seen mother and daughters buy. I've seen siblings buy. I've even seen friends buy.
You mean buy together, so
Buy
they're on the
together.
loan
Correct.
together?
Correct. Now, I do not suggest that if you're not people who can get along or who aren't like-minded.
Right.
But if you're doing it as a plan, where it's like, oh, we're going to have this house for 5 to 10 years. When we sell it, then we'll split the proceeds, and then we'll both go off and we'll buy our own properties. Then that may be an alternative, especially since with the rising cost of rent. You know, why spend $2,000 a month and $24,000 a year, and at the end of that year, you don't even own 0.5% of the property that you're living in. You own nothing.
So in this $400,000 example, you said how many bedrooms?
Probably 3.
So
You might
Well,
get
no,
4.
you're going to get 4 bed. You're typically going to get 4
What area?
bedrooms.
What area
Well,
are you
now,
speaking of?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
we're in
yeah,
Atlanta,
Yeah,
right?
It does depend on the area that you choose, but I think that the reason why you work with professionals, I mean, your realtor, the reason why you work with realtors who have good contacts with lenders is because you want to get the best property at the best price with the best payment for you.
So if I am doing my daily jog, which, you know, that's a hypothetical because, you know, I don't jog, but I'm doing my daily jogging and I see these houses and I am a renter. What is the first thing or the primary thing that I should do or have in place before I started riding around and looking at houses or jogging around looking at houses to buy? I mean, what's the number one thing I should do?
The first thing you need to do is you need to talk to a loan officer because you need to know if you qualify first. So while you may have the best jogging shoes on, your credit card might be maxed out. So you may not be able to qualify. So you want to make sure you qualify first. So most people will jump out and talk to a loan officer first. But the best thing is to talk to a real estate agent or go to any of your municipality websites and look for home buying programs or seminars because those are very instrumental to tell you what monies are out there, what products are out there. So that's the first thing that I would tell a person to do.
Okay, so first time home buyer, I can just walk into the bank and say, hey, do I qualify for a loan? And that's how I start the process?
You can if you have a
You
very good banking.
absolutely can do
if
that.
you have
You can even start the process online.
You can.
I would not suggest that only because a loan officer is not there just to tell you, do you qualify now and you're ready to buy. But sometimes they are going to be your resource to tell you how to get ready to buy. These are the steps that you need to take to get yourself in the place. So I encourage people not to be afraid to have that discussion. Your credit score may not be where it needs to be now, but a loan officer typically can tell you, take these steps.
So
And
can
this
we?
will get you where you need to be.
So can I plug in a disclaimer?
What's that?
There's a such thing called cyber fraud. So please be
Right.
careful when you're out here applying for loans, because you can get into a website that's not a good website, and then the officer's asking for your social security to upload your paycheck stubs and things like that. So you kind of need to be careful. So it's always good to get an agent, because most agents have lenders that they work with closely, or go to your bank.
Okay. So I'm just hearing what you're saying. While everyone loves to get on their phone and Google and search and find websites or whatever, Neighbor Mays, you're saying the best thing to do is to walk into the bank that you have a relationship with, or get a realtor that has a relationship with a bank, so that you can get some guidance one-on-one. Is that what you're saying?
That is my preference.
Okay.
Is and if you do go to any of the almost every county has a housing department or housing division that gives you options to do some of the seminars that neighbor was telling us about. But and that those events, there will be loan officers there that you can talk to. I prefer you be able to sit with someone who is sympathetic to your situation and be able to guide you properly, because not everyone is going to have the same situation and challenges. You may have $200,000 in student loans, so you need a knowledgeable loan officer that tells you how to navigate that and still be able to purchase a property, because it is possible.
Okay. So are the houses overpriced though? I heard you guys going back and forth about 3-bedroom versus 4-bedroom at $400,000, and I don't mean Buckhead versus Bankhead. I mean in general. Do we see the market being overly saturated with houses that are more than what they should be or they had traditionally been?
No, it's just the Atlanta opportunity. I mean, we're talking about Atlanta, so you have everyone moving here. So I mean, back in the I guess like 2004, 2005, you had a lot of people moving from the north down here, because you could buy a house in Ellenwood, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths for $175,000, which was unheard of. So Atlanta's always been known as you can get more for less. But now that demographic is changing. A lot of corporations are coming here. A lot of people are being placed here from, like their jobs and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can go South Fulton and get a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath house for about 44,000, about 490,000, 500,000. But you can go over to Grant Park and get a 2-bedroom, 2 bath, and you're looking at 700. So Atlanta is very big on the demographics where these houses are. So it's going to always be a challenge. So now, you're starting to see people moving from the city to the suburbs, but not really the suburbs. So they're staying like inside of that 285 cusp, because you can get more on, say, Cascade area than you could in Edgewood. Or you can find a nice townhouse in Rex, Georgia, that can give you everything you want, low HOAs, compared to going to Sandy Springs.
So let's talk about that. What impact has gentrification had on the housing prices? Because you're talking about, certain areas, and I heard you mention a couple of historic sides of town. I know that in the West End there is some changes going on. It's going to be like a baby or Atlantic Station Junior over there. So I'm sure that is going to impact the housing prices and the housing market. And there are probably similar areas in Georgia. So what impact does gentrification have that you've guys seen?
I mean, you can be in Atlanta in 30314, 30311, 30310, and you can have a simple little house that was built in 1954. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. But right next to it, you can have a mini mansion.
Because they're coming in.
Because they're coming back in. So you can get the lots, not really inexpensive in the city of, in Fulton County, but you can get a lot you can build. I mean, you have no HOA. So if you can go and you can build what you want, then it kind of like it pushes those people out. And then you have a lot of people in the historic areas whose grandparents, great-grandparents, parents have, started to pass along. You know what I mean? And so they're deeded these houses and these properties. And so they normally don't keep the condition up. They're kind of yeah, run down
They
and
tend to be financially limited.
Yep,
in
challenged.
that kind of thing. Atlanta's market has just been targeted by a lot of investors, a lot of hedge funds, a lot of people who are hoping to have renters, not necessarily buyers. And so that does affect the price. Gentrification, of course, is going to affect, the neighborhood, the price of everything. Change is good, development is good, but it will affect someone that has been in the neighborhood a long time, because a lot of times the taxes will increase because of the fact that the value has gone up. Sometimes people can't always afford that. I do think that the prices have come down since probably in 2021, 2022, because the market adjusts to everything. So when those interest rates were at 2.5, well, then all of a sudden the prices start to skyrocket, because now for every house you may have 30 offers for that house. So now you can raise the price, and you can not do seller concessions, not necessarily fix the house, sell it as is and still make an incredible amount of profit. You can't really do that now, because with the interest rates at the highest, people are less willing to come in and fix your house, basically. Now you do have, a little bit more, I think, negotiation, where you're able to get them to pay some of your closing costs, fix some items in the house, do some things that they were not doing before, pay for a home warranty, all the things that they were not willing to do. The prices are starting to come down, the concessions are starting to go up, but that's with the knowledge that,
But that's to neighbor
it's
Kim.
changing.
That's also in part to the market doesn't have an idea if it wants to be a buyer's market or a seller's market. We are supposed to be in a straight buyer's market, and we're not. We're in the middle of the road. So you have sellers that they don't want to move, they don't want to budge on their price, and they're firm, and then you got buyers coming in asking for everything.
Yeah.
So the two are not meeting.
So, you talked about big companies coming in and buying, and that changing the market. So, as an HOA attorney, I have seen where there are lots of houses being purchased either for unpaid taxes or at foreclosures, and those companies are buying them and then offering options to lease and buy, or just straight rent those properties out. And if, based on everything that you've said, persons here can't buy, then can they rent? And what's the pros and cons versus a renter program where you can buy it, or just rent until you're ready or able to buy?
Well, the biggest thing about that is that you're helping that company pay off their mortgage. So every month that you pay your rent, you're paying off that person's mortgage. So it doesn't make sense to me. I mean,
Right.
it just doesn't. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand, people really want to, I'd rather have a house instead of an apartment. But if it takes 6 more months or 3 more months to get your credit together, or, get some more income coming in to purchase your own, then do that. I mean, you have a lot of, I'm not going to give anybody plugs, but like you have a lot of those big companies that they will say, hey, contact us, we'll give you cash. We'll give you a price evaluation right now in your email. And so a lot of people go to those things, and then those companies buy it, and they bought the house for a little of nothing. It's not near where it's worth, and you're helping them pay. So to me, it's no pros in renting.
I always say I'd rather pay my mortgage than someone else's. And
no
basically, now there are some people who have to rent. I understand that there are some people that have to rent. I think that if you've gotten with your loan officer, you've gotten with your real estate agent, your plan should be, how do I go from a renter to an owner? Because ownership of real estate is the only way, I think, that you can develop wealth or thing
It's the
by
American
just living in your house. That's literally it. If you pay $2,000 a month and it's $24,000 a year, in 4 years you've paid almost $100,000, and you have nothing to show as far as ownership. If you're in your home, now you're building equity, and when you sell that home, now you're able to gain something, where you can use to pay debt, you can do savings, you can pay for different things. It's like, why would you not?
Well, so how do we educate consumers? I know y'all talked about some programs. How do we educate them that it might be best to stay in their mom's house while they're saving or working on whatever plan that the loan officer has suggested for them, or stay in an apartment instead of doing a lease to buy option for a house? So how do we educate the consumers? Because that's what we need to do.
Well, I know, I don't know about you guys, but growing up, when I turned 18, I was ready to get out of my parents' house. So trying to tell an 18-year-old that they need to build their credit and buy a house instead of getting an apartment is probably a big feat. So that age group, from the age of 18 to about maybe 29, 30, we really can't capture. I think probably within that age group, probably about 10% might be ready to buy. But most of them are going to rent, and they're going to rent in the areas of Atlanta, for existence, that's hot and popping, and as the kids say, fire. Fire areas. So that's where they're going to go. So it's hard to educate those people. But I think it really starts way before then. I think it really starts in the home with your parents. So we
I think you have to make the process less scary, because when I talk to someone they're 25 and it's like, why would I buy? I can just call the landlord. They'll come and fix things, and I have to worry about cutting grass. And I kind of remind them. I was like, yeah, I don't know how to cut grass. I was like, I've never cut grass. I have a lawnmower, but I mean, I don't fix a whole lot of things, and they don't realize that the mechanisms are available for you. Hey, I'll pay someone to cut my grass. Hey, there's apps that I can call and secure apps to be able to take care of these things, versus paying someone else's mortgage and you're losing the opportunity to gain wealth. I've given a 25-year-old who's owned their house for 2 or 3 years a $90,000 check from selling their house.
Wow.
Where else can you do that?
Well, it sounds like you guys have a wealth of information, and we talked about some programs. So if nothing else, the potential buyers should go and have a relationship with a realtor and or a loan officer.
Bank.
And they should go and explore home buying programs and seminars and workshops. And so
Can I do one more plug? A lot of people do not account for their monies. Put that money in the bank. You have to have a paper trail of your money, because that's what's going to be required for a loan.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for visiting our neighborhood and giving us any information that would help the potential home buyers dealing with the influx and the ever-changing housing market here. Thank you for joining us today in our engaging conversation, because when neighbors talk, locals listen. I'm Dana Tucker Davis, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.